Hello, everyone. So, today the lesson is about understanding the terms stimuli and response. So, you should be able to explain how stimulus response model works in our body. So, stimulus is any change, and the response is how your body is responding to that change. So today keywords, make sure you make note of them and write their definitions. You can find them in your book or you can find them online as well. And for the modifier students, I will provide them these ones, the definitions, and I will post them on Google Classroom as well. Okay, so as a warm-up, watch the video and answer these following questions as a warm-up. Okay, so the five senses. So everyone is familiar with the five senses what we have. So, what can we sense? We can touch, taste, smell, hear, and see. So they are the five senses. So examples, if we talk about see, that is your sight. So sight means you'll be able to see everything around you. So what are the organs in your body that are responsible or that help you to see? Of course, they are eye. Everyone knows we are able to see with the help of eye. Now, what does our eye detect? Our eye detects the light entering to the eye, then the eye makes an image, and that's how you see it. And what are the cells, what are the receptors in the eye that help us to see? So the cells, rods, and cones in the retina, these are the parts of eye, they are inside the eye. So they help us to see. And the type of receptor, so the receptor they're known as are the photoreceptors because they are receiving the light. Photo means light. So does that make sense, that chart? So let's look at the next one. So hearing. So how are you able to hear? The organ responsible for that is your ear. And the stimulus, the change, what you hear, it's the sound you hear. So that's your change, stimulus. Then receptor, what's in the ear that helps. So that's the hairs in the cochlea. Cochlea is the inner part of the ear that has got hairs and that recepts the sound, the vibrations. And they are known as the mechanoreceptors. Then the third one is touch. So how can you experience touch? With the skin. And the stimulus for that in the skin is for heat, what you can touch. You can feel the heat, you can feel the cold. If you touch any hot thing, you can feel that heat. If you're touching any cold thing, you can feel that cold, and the movement as well. Then the separate receptors for each type of stimulus. So there are the separate receptor cells in the skin for those types, and they are known as the thermoreceptors. They are related with temperature, and the mechanoreceptors as well. Then the next one is taste. How can we taste anything? With the help of the tongue. So the sense organ responsible for that, it is the tongue. Then the stimulus, the change, when you eat something, like the chemical substances, sweet, salty, bitter, or sour. So the four things your tongue can sense. And there are taste buds on the tongue that help you to sense that change. And that type of change, receptors are known as the chemoreceptors because they are the chemical substances. So the chemicals present in sweet, salt, bitter, and sour. So that's how you feel it. You taste it, sorry. Then the smell. So smell, you should be able to smell with the help of nose. And the stimulus is the different kind of smells, the chemicals, the odors. And the receptors, it's the olfactory nerves inside the nose. So those are the nerves responsible for you to be able to smell things. And again, because that are chemical, so the type of receptor is the chemoreceptor. So this table is important for you to understand the different types of senses and the different types of receptors. So that is really important. And it's really simple when you start thinking logically. Okay, so sight, how can we see with the help of eye? What can we see? The light. What cells are responsible? Rods and cones in the retina. And as it's light, so it's a photoreceptor. So you can remember like that logically. You don't have to just cram it. It's just like making sense of it. So how do you hear? With the help of ear. What do you hear? Sound. What helps you to hear sound? The hairs in the cochlea. And the type of receptor, it's a mechanoreceptor. So just remember like that. Okay, so 5 senses. Why do animals have senses? So that we can detect the changes in the environment. If we don't have any senses, if we are not able to hear or see, we cannot see any change happening in the environment. Our life will be just constant. It's just nothing. So as we already discussed, so what stimulus, what change we can detect? We can detect the change of touch if we are touching any hot, cold, or pressure or movement. If you are able to smell any taste any sweet, salty, bitter, and sour chemicals. For smell, if you're able to smell the chemicals and odors, if you're able to hear any sound, and if you're able to see the light, color, and the shade. So that's why we need to have senses in order to see, observe, and feel all that. So now name the sense organ, stimulus, and the receptor for the following. You had a yummy cheese toast for breakfast. So when you are that toast, of course, that would be for eating, but that could be for smell as well. So can you see what are the sense organs involved? So if it's a cheesy toast, it's a taste. So for the taste, we know the sense organ used for taste is your tongue, right? And then the stimulus, what would be the stimulus in that? So it has got the cheesy toast. The cheese is a stimulus, right? So it will be a little bit salty and sour depending on what cheese it is. Then the receptor. So the taste buds on your tongue would help to detect that change, right? So that's, you can write for the same thing for that as well in your books. Okay, so the receptors. So as we were talking about the 5 sense organs, so the receptors, eye, first of all. So we know the photoreceptors in the retina of the eye. So the retina inside, that's a structure of eye. So there's a retina. So the retina inside the eye detect the light, and then, so that retina, it detects the light and send the nerve impulse along the optic nerve to your brain. So that sends the signal to the optic nerve to the brain. Okay, so you can see that in the picture. So that's the structure of eye. So you have got here the photoreceptors. So the photoreceptors, they detect the change in light. So they are present in the retina. And then once they receive the signal, they send that signal, that change, along the optic nerve to your brain. So they passes a message to the brain in order for the brain to react and your eye to able to see the things around you. All right, so that's the next one. So after eye, we come to nose. So as already mentioned for nose, so nose is for your smell. So gas molecules dissolve in the mucus in your nose, causing the cilia of the, so there are cilia, there are little hair-like projections in the nose, so there are little hairs in your nose. So they receive the signal and then they generate the nerve impulse along the olfactory nerve, so to your brain. So the olfactory nerve takes the message from the nose, the hair of the nose, to the brain in order for you to smell something. And then it's the ear. So, there are mechanoreceptors in the ear, in the cochlea, in the inner part of the ear, that detect the vibrations of the sound and then send the message along the auditory nerve to the brain. So the auditory nerve is carrying the message to the brain, and then the brain will help send the message back to ear for you to able to hear anything. Then the skin. So skin has got different receptors like hairs, to detect vibration, pressure, touch, and pain. Then tongue. Tongue has got the chemoreceptors and detect the chemicals. So they have got the taste buds. So the different areas for salt, bitter, and sweet, like that. Okay. So the main thing to remember from this is eye. Okay. So there are photoreceptors in the retina. And which nerve is taking the signal to the brain? So optic nerve is taking the signal to the brain. For nose, It's the inner ear, the cilia in the the gas molecules dissolves in the mucus in your nose, causing the cilia of the chemoreceptor. So there are hairs in your nose that are taking the message to via the olfactory nerves to your brain. So here are the olfactory nerves. Then for the ears, it is the auditory nerve which is taking to the brain. Okay, so important things to remember. Then sight, so a little bit already explained to you. So the dark circle inside your eye, that is known as pupil, and that green or blue or black depending upon the person, so that part of the eye in which the pupil is, that is known as iris. So iris is the colored part of the eye, and the pupil is the dark black spot in the eye. Okay, so as we were talking about in the previous slide, so light is entering through here, through the cornea, pupil, the main part, that part is here outside. And then it's going inside. Here is retina that we were talking about. So receptors in the retina send the optic nerve to the brain from here. So here's the optic nerve. Then hearing, you do not have to remember all that. You just have to remember there are three parts of the ear: outer, middle, and inner. And then there is an auditory nerve. So that is the inner part, cochlea, that sends the signal via the auditory nerve to the brain. That's what you have to remember. Then for the touch, so you can see a lots of cells here for pain receptor, light contact receptor, heat receptor, cold receptor, pressure receptor, movement receptor, and the layer of a dead skin. So just mention all of that receptors here. What do you notice? So that help for your skin to experience any touch. Then taste. So your tongue has got, that is your tongue. So it has got your taste buds. So you can find out what are the special branched structures called. So you can find out about that for the tongue and write down here. Then smell, so that's the nose. So chemoreceptor, the hairs in the nose, they are sending the signal to the brain. Okay, so now I want you to write down, make some points or notes in your books about working together, five senses, receptors, five receptors, and most importantly, the stimulus and response model. So you can just make notes about them. And if you have made the notes for those ones, not just only copying, please do not send me copying the slides to a Google Doc and send me as your work. If you are making notes in your own words, of course, you can send me that. I will tick off as that your work for this session.